you tell me what's up, you know?
And when were you having this conversation with him?
This was
How old
like,
were
I
you?
was 36 when I got out, so I was 29. I was 29.
So you had this conversation with him for the first time when you were 29 years
Yeah.
old. So you asked him what his perception was of you.
Yeah, like,
What did he say?
and he goes, "Well, let me tell you about, let me tell you about 2 days of your life that I can remember clearly." He goes, "We just moved in the 70th Street house," so I must have been like 3.5, 4 years old, something like that. Because "We just moved in that 70th Street house, and, with, my father, especially in the Midwest, there's a lot of bowling leagues, and every 2 weeks you get paid, and the mailman would go play cards, you know, and he'd go play cards. And I don't, he said, your mother didn't like how good I did that day. Because you'd have to be home by Sunday morning for that one breakfast and that one meal that the four of us ate together, you know? Because he had that one day off. Mailman worked 6 days a week, but then he also would work at another job on Sunday at night. So we'd have breakfast. And he goes, man, your mom, she wasn't happy with me, and I wasn't giving her any quarter, any inch. And he goes, I wasn't having it. And my mom is usually the last one to the table. She makes sure everything's all set, and it's her kitchen. You're just walking through it. Don't stop. She could take care of you. And, she'd get everything set up, and we would, try to wait to eat. And she'd be like, no, eat, and so we would. And I remember what my father says, she sat down and she said to me, "Do you gotta chew so fucking loud?" And I remember I looked at her, he said I looked at her, and you know what? That's when the first time my father, I think, he said he ever chin checked me. And then bam.
So who asked your mother if she had to chew so fucking loud? You asked that question?
No, my mother sat down. Remember, she said, "Hey, you guys
Who
eat,
asked her
eat."
that question?
My mother asked me that question. She
Oh.
turned to me and she goes, "You gotta chew so fucking loud."
And what was your response to her?
I just looked at her and like, "What?" I was like, like that, And then my father just, bam, quick little chin check, knocked me off my seat, and I got up.
Because you looked at her?
No, it was like, just let me cook here. I'll tell you what happened. So I got back up. He said, you didn't get knocked out. It was a nice little chin check, rung your bell, sat back down. My father turned to me and goes, smackers get smacked in this household. And, I always wondered why I hated the sound of people chewing with their mouth open. I mean, this was at 29. I finally understand why I hate the sound of that when somebody's smacking, when they're eating, right?
Mm.
But now check this out. He goes, now after all that happened right there, here comes Monday. After what I just did to you the day prior, we're not sitting down to have dinner. And he goes, I can tell you this right now. I was drunker, madder, meaner, and more tired than I ever was that day. We sit down at the table. We're eating. He goes, I notice that you're just skirting around your vegetables. But you know damn well that there's a nice piece of cake waiting there for you for dessert. And he says, you don't eat those vegetables, you don't get no cake. He said, you know what you did next? I said, I don't know. I can't remember anything. He goes, you looked me in the eye, you looked me directly in the eyes. You grabbed your glass of milk. And while you were looking me in the eyes, you poured that milk over your plate. And you said, no cake. And you got up, left, and you did the one thing I hate more than anything. When you went in your room, you slammed the door. He's like, I didn't know what to do with you. I had just knocked you off your chair with a chin check, and I know damn well later on that day I spanked your bottom with a fucking, with my mailman's belt. Because I didn't know, man. I tried. I just didn't know how to deal with you. And that gave me the understanding as to why when he was fading out, when he was dying, I was able to understand that I'm losing the man that filled my love language, my tank, every day. You understand that?
So you got into trouble later on in life, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll get to that in a
Mm-hmm.
moment. But when you look back on that moment that your father described, the day after, he had just socked you in the face.
Mm.
You're sitting at the table. He gives you this ultimatum. You pour your glass of milk in your dinner plate and get up and leave. What do you think that said about you and your frame of mind and how you viewed the world at that particular point in time? Because I want to tell you what I think about you at that point.
Right.
I want to know what you thought about that little boy at that point in time.
Well, I didn't at 29, I didn't quite understand why I would do something like that, why I would kick the hornet's nest, you know what I'm saying? But then through the course of doing therapy and all this other stuff, I understand why I did that.
Why?
Because I knew that the only way I was gonna get any touch or any kind of loving is to do something like that, and then he might come in,
And spank
whoop me
you.
up a little bit, spank
And
me,
that
do
was
whatever.
that was touch. Any
That was
touch.
any touch, you know? I know it's unhealthy, I know it's irrational, and I know it's not cool, but I can only rationalize why I would do things like that is because of that. That was the only way I was gonna get it, you know? And therefore, I acted out. But at the same time, you know, yeah, that's my only reasoning behind it.
Let me tell you,
Bring it, Sean.
at that point, there was no fear in you. You didn't fear getting beat. You didn't fear getting a spanking. You didn't fear getting. He might have punched you again, and you weren't even thinking of it like that. That wasn't a deterrent for you. And I look back on my own childhood. The reason why I didn't get in any trouble is because I feared what my mother would do to me when I got home. I didn't want to get beat. You know, I got beat plenty, but didn't want to get beat, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were not afraid of your father or your mother. And for me, if you're not afraid of what happens to you when you get home, that's like a dangerous cocktail to go out into the world. You feel me? Like if you don't if there's not some sense of consequences that you don't want to experience at home, like there's nobody outside of your house that's going to spank you, right? And if somebody punches you out in the street, you're gonna punch him back, most likely. You weren't punching your father back. Not at that age.
Not
anyway.
at that age.
Not
No.
at that age.
Yeah,
anyway.
you're right. Not at that
Right?
age. Right.
So the way I look at it psychologically, I think that set the stage for you to step out into the world and not really be concerned about consequences. Like, because for most of us, the worst thing that could happen to you is something physically negative happening to you. Like, most people don't want to fight. They don't want to get hit in the face. They're afraid to get hit in the face. You step out the house, you're not really afraid.
No, I was afraid of being grounded, to be honest with you. I mean, I was like, do your thing, let's go. Because then I could just go outside after that. A lot of times my friends would be waiting outside. You gotta get his whooping. He fucked up at school today, you know. And then boom, I jam outside, let's go.
You get your beating, but then you can go on about your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if you ground me, it's like, man.
Especially with ADHD that you didn't know about.
No.
Yeah, that's it. That's interesting. Do you understand? Can you understand why I'm saying that to you?
Yeah, yeah.
Because my mother's beating was my deterrent.
Huh.
Right?
Yeah.
Nobody really could do anything to me outside that I feared. I didn't want to be butt naked with a leather belt
Or a switch.
tearing up my legs and my butt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And there was no telling when it was going to end.
Mm-hmm.
So I conducted myself outside the house to make sure I did whatever I could to not experience that inside the house. Your situation is like completely opposite. You know, you took your lumps. It's not like you were asking for it, but it seemed like it was so standard for you. Like, let's get this out the way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being touched. Little do I know that that's what I need, whether it's pleasant touch or unpleasant touch. And I got grounded all the time too.
Mm-hmm.
So I get beat and grounded.
Oh.
Same with you though.
Yeah.
But after I got a beating, I wasn't allowed to go outside.
Well, after I got beaten, a lot of times my father would be exhausted. He'd pass out, you know.
What about your sister? Did she get beat?
Not when I was around.